Hey y'all, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to check out another one of my videos. And in today's video, as you guys saw from the thumbnail, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys my birth story for my fourth child, Sophia Adele. She was born in mid-August. She's already 5 weeks old. Oh my goodness, it's the end of September. Time is going by so fast. But anyway, I'm finally sitting down to share with you guys my labor and delivery story and just let you guys know how it went for me, how it was after she was born. That's what we're gonna be talking about in today's video. So if you're at all curious about hearing about people's birth stories or whatnot, or I guess more labor and delivery, because it's not my birth. But anyway, yeah, the labor and delivery stories, how it went for me, and you know, all my experience. I have done this for all of my children on my channel, so if you are at all curious, if you enjoy hearing labor and delivery stories, I will leave the playlist up here. But Sophia Adele is my fourth child, so I have 3 other birth stories I've already shared with you guys here on YouTube, and today I'm going to be sharing hers and how it went for me and how it's just been, you know, adjusting to life with 4 children and whatnot. So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. And then for the palette that I'm going to be using as I do my makeup, I'm going to be using the Cosmic Brushes Serenity palette. I was going back and forth between this one and my Fairy Tale Fairies palette from Simply Posh Cosmetics because both of them were #1 in my last Palpalooza. If you missed that video, I'll leave a link up here. But they're both such fantastic palettes. I loved them so much. I was like, which one should I do? But I finally decided to do this because on my channel, I've only had like a first impressions video on it. So I only have 1 look that you guys can watch on my channel. And for the Fairy Tale Fairies palette, I have 3 looks in that video. So that's why I'm going to be using this. And if you're curious about the Fairy Tale Fairies palette, I'll leave that link up here too if you want to go watch that. But we're going to be diving in playing with this. And I definitely know I want to play with the green. I just love this green. But I want to kind of play with the purple, maybe a little bit of the blue on the outer corner. And I have no idea what goes on my lid. We'll figure that out as we go. But yeah, that's kind of my plan right now. So let me zoom in a bit closer, prime my eyes, and then we can get started. Alright, so I'm just using Kaleido's, what's it called, Tone Activator for my eyeshadow primer. This is brand new to me, not sure if I love it or not. I've just been testing it with random eyeshadows and just trying to pay attention if it lasts as well as my other eyeshadow primers that I tend to use. But let me go ahead and blend this out. Alright, I'm going to start with the black and I'll probably dip into the blue on my outer corner. There's no really deep purple in here. So I'm going to start with very dark blue on my very outer corner. I'll probably blend it out with this as well. But let's go ahead and dive in. I forget if I've used much of this black. I feel like the dark shades in here are deep enough that I don't think I've reached for this black, maybe once. Anyway, let's get started. So if you're new around here, just to throw it out, if you haven't watched my previous birth stories, I have very large babies, and my first one, my daughter, she was way overdue. She was almost 42 weeks, I think. I think it was like 41.5 weeks. I forget when we finally went in to induce her. She was very large. She was 10 pounds, 3 ounces. I tore really bad. She got stuck. It was just a whole ordeal. So ever since that point, any doctor, or even with Levi, I had a midwife that I went to, recommended that I deliver early, which they always say they can safely induce me, or they're comfortable inducing me a week early, but they always recommend inducing me a week early to keep babies small so that I don't have like my risk of tearing and the severity of my tears are decreased, because the more you tear, especially as bad as I tore with my first one, I tore to a 4th degree, which is the worst tearing you can do if you want to look into tearing when you give birth. It was a lot, but anyway, they always recommend that I come in early, because if I continue like to have experiences like that where I tear really, really bad, I could have a lot of issues that like would need surgery to correct, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I just want to throw that out there kind of as a little caveat, or like beginning to my story, in that I don't ever try to, well, not that I don't ever try to go natural, but I don't ever try to go to my due date. This time I really tried my hardest to see if I could kind of induce myself with just natural methods. And I'm nothing too severe, I'll like induce myself, but I was definitely looking up and taking as many things as I could that were recommended to prepare a woman's body for delivery, in the hopes that I would deliver early and I wouldn't have to induce. But so far with all 4 of my children, I've never gone into labor on my own, and I've had to go to the hospital and use, you know, get Pitocin to induce. Just a little, you know, FYI about my deliveries and my my birthing experience. So with this one, we're coming up on her due date, and we had a date 1 week before my due date set, and there were a lot of things I did different with this birth, as I said, to try to prime. I can share with you guys what I use, but I definitely want to say here, like, please like talk to your doctor, all this stuff. Like I said, I looked up, researched, asked friends, but then I like went and got the, you know, kind of like okay from my doctor. I kind of showed it to her, explained it to her. I was like, hey, is this safe for me to take? So anything I'm saying here, definitely recommend checking with a professional before you start taking it and whatnot. But anyway, I can share with you guys what I did use. The first one was pretty easy peasy. I just started eating a lot of dates, which I'd never really eaten a date before, honestly. Like I was like, oh, okay. I honestly don't mind them so much, but somewhere I read that if you can take like 6 dates, eat 6 dates a day, the last month or the, I think it was the last month of your, you know, before your due date, it can help prepare the cervix and all that for, you know, having a baby. Not so much induce and make you go early, but just prepare it. So like I said, anything that I could do to kind of help pave the way once I had to start Pitocin. Oh man, I got some blue out there. Oh well. Anything that I could do to kind of help my body prepare for it so that once they started Pitocin it would go quickly, I just threw a brush. I was trying to do. So I started eating dates, and dates are big. I didn't realize how big they were because I was like, oh, 6 dates a day? Like I could do that easy. But they're like, at least the ones I got, they're like this big. They were big. Which they tasted okay. They were a little sweet, which if you don't know, like my nausea is really triggered by sweetness. So it was really hard to eat 6. I don't think I ever ate 6, but I would eat like 3 to 4 throughout the day for the last month. I'm just gonna tap into this one now. I also started taking evening primrose oil orally, like with a little pill. I would just take with my vitamins and whatnot. The last month I got the okay from my doctor to do that. I forget all the, like I said, you can go look it up if you're curious, but it's supposed to, again, something just to help prime and ripen the cervix and whatnot and get you ready to go for delivering. So I did that for about the last month. I also read something about like you can put it like directly on your cervix if you want. But I asked my doctor and she was like, oh, that can also lead to like agitation and whatnot with the cervix, so I opted not to do that. Honestly, I was like, oh, I'll just take it. That's okay. I'll just take it orally and we'll see what happens. But anyway, I did that. What else did I do? I have a little tincture that has red raspberry tea. Red raspberry tea is great if you can drink it. I hate tea and I always struggle to actually drink the tea, but I'll leave the link down below. I have this, it's called Gentle Birth, and it's got a bunch of like red raspberry tea in it, but it also has a cohosh. I forget if it's blue or black cohosh. One's good, one's bad, so I don't want to misinform you, but I'll leave it linked down below. But it has stuff in it that's supposed to help prepare your body and kind of get it going into gear, that type of thing. So yeah, I took the Gentle Birth for the last, I think 6 weeks. I forget exactly. Again, it has instructions or whatnot. And I think that those things help kind of get my body ready. Because out of all my births, this was definitely the one that I kind of felt like there was one day that I thought I was going into labor because I was actually feeling like a couple really good contractions and I got excited. It was like a week before I was supposed to go in to induce and I was like, oh my goodness. I was texting my mom, I was like, is this what it feels like? And she was like, that sounds like it. So I got a little excited and then it all went away. But I never had that experience before with any of my other babies. So, I mean, it could have been not helping at all. It could have kind of helped getting my body a little bit prepped. I'm not sure, but those are the things I did besides taking like my multivitamins, my magnesium to help with cramps and whatnot, and then iron because I'm always low on iron. Besides taking those like daily that I've taken throughout the whole pregnancy, those are the things I did like the last 6 weeks to 2 months to try to prepare my body. I've been talking for like 10 minutes and we haven't even gotten to like checking into the hospital. Let's keep moving. I'm gonna take this purple now and I'm going to put that right on top here because I want to put the green in here. Actually, maybe I should put the green in and then I'll sandwich the purple somewhere. I was wanting that purple, but I don't know if I'll actually get to do it. I don't know. Let's go in with the green. Because I was going in to induce, I could kind of pick my hours or like pick when I wanted to go in. So we picked the day, August 22nd, and well, 22nd was when we were going to have the baby, but we actually went in at midnight that night. So like it felt like the previous day, Sunday. We went in and we checked in just after midnight. And this one I kind of went back and forth on because the doctor was like, we can check you in at midnight, kind of check where you're going. We could even start the Pitocin that early so that you could have like a morning baby. And so that she like didn't have to like stay too long at the hospital if I started in the morning and went into the evening. I kind of went back and forth on this because I was like, oh, I gotta go in at midnight, like I'm gonna kind of be tired and whatnot. But then I was like, hey, you know how many people go into labor in the middle of the night or whatnot and have to go to the hospital and they finish like a full day of activities. So I went back and forth, but I finally ended up doing it because I was like, you know what, I'm a bit of a night person. I probably ain't gonna sleep much the night before anyway. And that way we could also have more of a morning baby, and then that way the kids, who I always worry about when I go in to have babies, I always worried about my youngest and whatnot and how they'll be without me there and whatnot and adjusting. So I was like, let's do it. Let's go in the night before so that hopefully we can have an early morning baby instead of like a late afternoon, which is all my other ones have been kind of late afternoon. And so I went in and checked in at midnight, and they checked me to see where I was. I was really hoping I was like progressed from the last, like the doctor had checked me and I was at like maybe a stretchy 3, like she could kind of stretch to a 3 at like a couple days before when I went for my last appointment. So when I checked in, she was like, check her, and if she's not like at a 4, then they were gonna start me with a dose of Cytotec. I'm gonna go into a little bit of that, and then start Pitocin after that. So I went in really hoping that I was at least progressed to a 4 or something, so we could just jump right on the Pitocin and just, I don't know, have this baby sooner rather than later. But we went in and checked. All right, that's not really making much of a difference. I probably should have put this one down first. Yeah, we went in, she checked me and I was a 3. So she was like, okay, we're gonna start with a round of Cytotec, which is something they put onto your cervix, and then you have to kind of like lay still and let it work for a couple hours. So getting there, I was like, okay, I get there, hopefully I start Pitocin. Then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna kind of lay down and catch some sleep while this works. So that's what we did. We just kind of, she gave me the Cytotec and I just went to sleep, or tried to sleep as much as I could, whatnot, in the hospital, and waited for the Cytotec to see if it would kickstart any labor, or at least progress me a little bit. I'm gonna dive into this purple. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. My mom like texted me throughout the day, or when we were at the hospital, whenever I got checked, so that I could know, looking back, exactly like where I was and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. So we checked in. By the time we got settled and checked in and got a room and all that stuff, and she actually checked me, it was like 130. I was 3 centimeters, 50% of face, and a -2. So like the baby, that's how high. It's -2, and then positive is like, -2 is like how high she is up on my cervix. 0, I think, is like right there at the cervix, I think, and then +1 is whatnot, is like crowning. So she was low, but not super low. She still had a little ways to go. So yeah, we did that, and then at 5:30 she came back and checked me, and that's when we were gonna kind of get going to start Pitocin, and I was 4 centimeters and like about 60% of face, a little bit more, and still -2, like where the baby was sitting. So then I think she went out to get everything ready for Pitocin, and at 6:38 the doctor came in. I think she started Pitocin a little bit before then, really low. I didn't really feel much of it, but at 6:30 the doctor came to check on me, and by that point I was 4 to 5 centimeters, she called it, 70% of face, and a -1. So making progress. Super happy. And that's kind of 6:37. That's kind of when, oh, this is too big of a brush. Let me get a little bit smaller. So around 7 is when things started to kind of pick up and whatnot, as far as like for me dealing with the delivery. I could definitely feel the Pitocin working. I could feel the contractions. They still weren't too bad. Nothing that like had me super in pain. But definitely had to kind of stop a little bit and kind of relax through it. I've said this before on my channel, but I always like to say it during a video like this. But I used the Bradley method when I was preparing for my first pregnancy, and I kind of just go back to that anytime I am about to have a baby. I kind of remind myself about the relaxation tips, and basically a Bradley method is all about relaxing and letting your body work, and just giving you kind of tools on how to completely relax your body, because the more relaxed you can be, the more your body can progress and move along in your delivery, and the less painful it'll be for you. I'm gonna go into the lightest purple here. So that's what I use. Highly recommended, always recommended if you're at all curious. I'll try to leave the Bradley method link down below, but it's like a 12-week course you can take, or just books if you want to just read about it. Anyway, so I started doing those kind of coping mechanisms for the pain as it started to get a little bit more intense and whatnot. Nothing too bad, but I was having a little bit of like back pain, and I think they said because the baby was a little bit, she wasn't laying the way it was supposed to. I forget what it's called, but she was kind of looking up instead of kind of, I forget which way, but whichever way the baby's supposed to come out, she was not totally the opposite way, but she was sideways to it. So I think that's why I felt it more so in my back. Like I was having a good amount of back pain with or like back pressure in my hips area towards the back with this pregnancy than I remember with like Levi. Like Levi, I don't think I remember my mom, my husband, or anyone having to give me like any kind of counter pressure. But this one, from pretty early on, if I wasn't in the tub, I was wanting some pressure down there just because it was pretty intense. I'm taking just a little bit of that blue. I'm gonna put it in here. So anyway, started that. I think I hopped in the bath around 7:30-ish, I wanna say. No, maybe it was a little after 8. Just to see, I was like, oh, I kind of feel bad, let me hop in. But then I kind of regretted it, because I was like, I feel like I got in a little too early, and I wasn't really feeling the contractions anymore, and I was really worried about it just slowing things down and making things take longer. So I think I just stayed in there for like, I don't know, maybe half an hour, and then I went ahead and got out to go back to the bed and just stay on the side of the bed, and I kind of sit on a ball. I really enjoy sitting on the ball and just using that to, I'm taking a touch of the really dark green. But I squat on the ball and lean forward and kind of like let my body relax over the bed during the contraction so that I can really relax and not get too tense. And so that's what I did for a while. I think it was around 8 or so. My husband showed up. I haven't even mentioned, but like I had a lot of people, a good number of people at my birth. I was very thankful that the hospital was okay with that. My mom and my sister, Sophia, came with me to the hospital since we were gonna be naming her Sophia. She really wanted to be there at the birth. So they came with me to start it all off like at midnight and whatnot. And then the next morning, since nothing was happening, no one rushed out there. So then the next morning, my other sisters came who wanted to see the birth, and then my husband also came because he stayed at the house and like took the kids to family that was gonna watch them while the baby was being born, but he stayed and spent the night with the children since I was like, you don't need to be there if I'm not gonna be going into labor. So I think everyone else who didn't come with me to the hospital at the midnight point got there around 8:30 or so. And then we just kind of started the process. At 8:30, I remember that I wasn't in a ton of pain. When there was contractions, I definitely had to stop. I wanted mom to give me some counter pressure and whatnot while I was having the contractions, but it wasn't anything super intense. It was definitely manageable for me. So yeah, 8:30, 9:30, still pretty manageable. I think 9:30, 10 is when it started to get a little bit more intense. And if you've never had Pitocin, I don't really like pay attention when I'm in the moment, but I think it's every half hour, every hour, they come in and kind of put up the Pitocin and make it stronger and whatnot to kind of get the contractions going and keep them progressing. And so as time progressed and whatnot, it was getting more intense. And so I think it was around 10 or so. I'll put it on the screen because one of my sisters was taking pictures, so I can look at the pictures when I went into the bath. But at some point I was like, okay, these are getting really not fun. I want to get in the bath again to see if that'll help me really relax, because I was really kind of struggling to really let go. Ooh, that was a little too much. Really let go and relax during the contractions. They were getting a lot more intense, and like I said, that lower kind of it's not even like lower back, or it's like lower back but also like at the hip range. So like imagine your hips, and then right there at the back was really just intense, whatever bones are there. Really sharp, intense pain that just, I don't know, makes you want to curl your feet, curl your toes up when it's coming on. So I was like, let me get in the bath, make it nice and hot, and let's see if that helps. I honestly think I let them make the bath too hot. Like I was a little too ambitious there when they were like, oh, is this hot enough? And I was like, make it hotter. And they made it hotter. And I think I made it a little too hot, because it was to the point where like when I wasn't in a contraction, I would sit up because it was so hot. But then when I was like having a contraction, I would sit back into it, and it was really hot, so it really helped kind of that pain to melt away. So it was good and bad, but I was curious to see if like the hotter it was, if it was less painful. And I don't know, I think, like I said, if I could go back and redo that, I wouldn't insist on it being quite so hot, because it was a little too hot for me when I was actually like just sitting there between contractions. I was like, okay, this is a little hot. I hope you guys don't mind that I'm not really talking through my look. I'm just having fun blending a bunch of shadows. Anyway, so yeah, that went just back and forth. I would say probably 10 or so. Whenever I went to go in the bath, at that point it was getting really hard. Like it wasn't fun anymore. I was really struggling through not struggling, but I was really having a kind of getting discouraged point. I feel like for me, there's always that point where I feel really discouraged of like, this is going on forever. It's getting too hard for me. Like I don't think I can do it point. So that's why I went to the bath, because I wanted to just buy myself some more time so I could let my body continue to relax and, you know, get closer to delivery. I didn't say this in the beginning, but I've answered it in previous videos. I always go into having a baby with the mindset that I'm not gonna get an epidural, and I'll leave linked up here or down below in the description box the video where I kind of talk about why I don't want to get an epidural, just so I'm not rehashing the same information. But anyway, that's always been my mindset going into having a baby, and I've had 4 children. You know, this is my 4th one, and so far I have not had to get an epidural. So it's always, like I said, my goal going into having a baby. I think I'm happy with how this looks. Maybe not the most even because I'm chatting away, but that's okay. Like even between the 2 eyes, but that's okay. We're gonna go on and do the shimmer. I have no idea what I'm doing for the shimmer. So anyway, got into the bath just to help kind of prolong things. It was, like I said, not fun. I even at one point was in the bath and I kind of turned around, faced away from my husband so that he could give me counter pressure while I was in the hot bath, because it was just kind of that intense. It feels like being strangled, but not like at your neck. It's like being strangled at your hips, behind your hips. It's really weird feeling, but it's very, very distinct. So anyway, did that for a little while. I think I had to go to the bathroom, or I think I had to go to the bathroom at one point. So I was like, let me try a couple, you know, let me get out of the bath, sit on the toilet, and, you know, go to the bathroom, obviously. But then let me try a couple contractions on the toilet, because that's also a good birthing method because you're squatting. I always prop my legs up to kind of get into that really good deep squat position, and you kind of don't have to worry about, I don't know, making a mess anywhere if your back. Oh, I didn't even say, but like if your water breaks. I forgot, when the doctor came in at 6:30 to check me, she broke my water. Which, if you don't know, breaking your water, the water is like that cushion that the baby is in. So once you break your water, there's no more cushion left. So I always opt to break my water to progress things because I'm impatient, I guess. But yeah, that wasn't fun either. Totally forgot about that. Anyway, where were we? I hope you guys don't mind this chaotic video. I think I'm gonna use this purple all over the lid to help that purple in the middle come out, and I'll probably put this one on the inner corner just to make it pop a little bit, but that purple's gonna be all over the lid. So what else? Let's see. I tried a few contractions on the toilet. I don't know if it's just because, like, if I want to get into really deep squat, the hospital toilets are always really tall, so I have to have stuff to prop me up, and maybe I just have really bony hips or something, but I always feel like when the contraction comes on and I'm trying to relax, it's hard for me to relax because, like, the hard toilet is like digging into the, I don't know, what is that, like into my butt bones. I know you don't have bones in your butt, but whatever that bone is from your leg, I don't know, whatever. I feel a lot of like ouchy hardness against my bones, and it's just really hard for me to relax. So I did a couple of those, trying to just like lean over on the like that kind of tower that you have to follow around with you if you had Pitocin, so that they can track stuff and whatnot, and it's able to give you the Pitocin. And that didn't feel great, but I did a couple of them there, and then I was like, okay, I just want to go to the bed. Like, I really don't feel good. The bath, I think I was getting too hot, and also something with my pregnancies, but as I get really close to delivering, kind of going through that transition, I get incredibly hot, which is another reason why, I don't think I've said it here, but I never do my makeup like for when I have a baby, because I sweat so much at the end. Like, I am so hot, like I feel like I'm burning up, like from the inside out. And so I was getting super hot, and then with the hot bath as well, I was getting kind of nauseous. So I was like, I don't want to go back in the bath. Let me get in the bed. I want them to check me and see if it's time, basically. I was kind of, like I said, I was feeling done. I was at that point where I felt like I couldn't, I'm gonna take a little bit of this on the outer corner. Felt like I just couldn't do it. I couldn't keep doing the same kind of pattern of, you know, contraction, relaxing and whatnot. And I don't know how far apart they were. They're probably a couple minutes apart. They weren't super close. Since it's, you know, the Pitocin working, it's kind of on a pretty set schedule. It didn't feel anything crazy close, but it definitely felt too close for me. I wanted them hours apart because I was just so tired at that point. And also, like, I hadn't slept much. The previous day was Sunday. I remember getting up early because I wanted to try to take a nap in the middle of the day so that I could be well rested when I had to go in that night, and I could not take a nap. I tried so hard, but my body, I don't like sleeping to begin with, so trying to make myself nap, it didn't work. It backfired on me. So I was tired, and then, like, you know, I slept a little bit, kind of dozed when I checked into the hospital, but not a lot. So I was getting tired, definitely feeling it at that point, but mostly just getting to that, I guess, the transition point where you just feel like you can't do it anymore. You want to just leave your body because that's the only way to escape. So I was there. I got in the bed. My mom and husband were kind of on either side of me, so I could lay in the bed, squatting with my like my legs together to really open up my hips. But also they were on either side of me to like push against my back to try to give me that counter pressure, even though I was in the bed, because it was just, like I said, it was pretty intense. And so we did that for a couple contractions, and then the nurse came in and checked me, and they called for the doctor. Okay, the battery died, so I had to change it out. Where was I? So they checked me. I'm pretty sure when they checked me, they said I was only like a 7, maybe an 8. And I remember them checking me, and I was just so discouraged because I was like, oh my goodness, I have 2 more centimeters to go. And like, I think when they had checked me before, I was like at a 4 or 5. So I was like, oh my goodness, I've only done like 3 hours since the doctor was here at like 7 or whatever. I remember feeling very discouraged, whatever the case was. But at the same time, they sent off for the doctor, so I was a little confused. I was like, I must be close, but maybe not too close. Maybe she just needs more time. Anyway, they told the doctor like to come to the hospital, and the nurses kind of stayed there gloved up as I went through some more contractions and whatnot. So I remember that confused me in the moment. I was like, why are they still staying here if I have like 3 more centimeters to go? But mom told me later it was because like the baby's head was there. I must have been like, I don't know, 0 + 2. I don't know the numbers, but she said when she checked me, like the baby's head was right there. And then when I was having the contractions, like I was feeling a lot of pressure down there. Even like little tiny urges to push, and I would push a little bit. Nobody told me not to, or like to stop pushing. So whenever my body wanted to push and would go to push, I would just let it. And I felt like I could feel my body opening up, and I could feel that pressure, that head coming down. I was glad that they were calling the doctor, because I knew that meant I was close and almost done with it, and I was really struggling. That however many minutes it took the doctor to get there, I had a handful of contractions, and just working through them, I was just like so done. My mom was putting cold rags on me too, because like I said, I sweat. I just get so hotty at the end when I'm kind of transitioning to that final stage. I was sweating up a storm, like just dripping. My face was dripping, and so she kept grabbing cold rags and setting them on my face for like one contraction, and then she said she would get another one to put on, and she would take the old rag off, and it would be so hot just from that little amount of time on my face. I was very, very hot. So anyway, we did that for a couple minutes. I don't even know how long it took the doctor to get there. I was not paying attention. It was definitely a couple contractions. I do know that. It was definitely a couple of contractions that I went through, where the nurses kind of just sat around the bed watching me, keeping an eye on down there to make sure nothing crazy happened before the doctor came, and then my mom and husband helping to give that counter pressure during the contractions, and we did that for a while, and then the doctor showed up. Praise the Lord. I love when the doctor shows up, because I know I am almost done. And yeah, the doctor came up, she started gloving up. My mom wanted to catch the baby, and like I said, we had a good bit of people in the room, and I had asked beforehand, because, you know, with COVID and all that, you know, things changed, so I wasn't sure if I'd be allowed to have everyone. I had my sisters, my sister-in-law, and they were all there. And when it came time to push, I remember one of the nurses saying like, okay, how many people do you want in the room? Like, can we, you know, we can have the others wait outside. And I was like, and I remember I called before, and they had said they don't mind however many people are in the room, as long as it doesn't hinder them being able to care for the mom and the baby. So they just want to make sure they're allowed to, you know, able to easily get all their people that they need in. So I was like, okay. And I remember being like in, you know, going through contractions or whatnot, and she said that, and I was like, the girls can like stand on the couch. Like there was a big old heavy, you know, big old couch you can sleep on. I was like, have my sisters stand on the couch so everyone can be in here. I really wanted my sister Sophia to be in there, since this was her first birth, and we named her, we named my daughter after her and whatnot. And so I was like, they can just stand on the couch and watch from there. Nobody can, like, none of the nurses and doctors can like get to the, you know, need the couch for anything, so they'll be fine there. So like really quick, all my sisters spread out so that they had plenty of room, and they were fine with it. They dropped it after that. So I was very thankful for that, because that was the one thing that was kind of stressing me out, because y'all know I have a larger family. I have a lot of sisters, and they all love to be at births, and I don't know, I like having them there. It's a neat experience. It's a neat time. I remember being younger and loving to go to my mom's births and whatnot. I remember begging her for a while to go to births, and the first one she let me, I was just so hyped, and then all the other ones that I went to, it was a very special time. So I was very thankful that the nurses didn't insist on kicking them out. Very thankful. The doctor was there, and it was time to push. It was a little before 11, because I do know that Sophia was born right at 11 o'clock, or at least that's what we were told, because I wasn't paying attention to the time. And the doctor got there, got all suited up. I was still having contractions, where a couple times during the contraction my body would kind of go to push. I never would let my body push for long. I kind of always tried to relax it, you know, whenever I would start to, like, my body would want to push, I try to focus more on relaxing myself so that it wasn't a really hard push or anything. So we did, you know, that, and then she was ready. I got into position, they got everything ready, and she said, okay, like with this next one, go ahead and push. And so it was time. It's always such a weird, like, to think about, because I've done it 4 times, but when it comes time to push, it's just such a crazy feeling to push out a human. I tell you, you go to push and it just feels so weird. Anyway, so contraction came, and I started to push, And I definitely feel like she had a bigger head than at least Levi, because my last birth, my third child, I don't remember, I don't know, I don't remember as much like pressure, intensity when it came time to push. With him, I just remember a lot of relief when it came time to push, because I was like, yes, I can finally push this baby out. But with her, I remember, you know, with Sophia, I went to push her, and it was just a little bit harder than I remembered. Anyway, so pushing, and with that one push, I got her head out, and then her head came out, and then I went to like relax back, like I felt her head come out, and so I went to like catch a break, and as I went to catch a break, like I felt more of her come out, and then all of a sudden the doctor was like, push Katie, like keep pushing. I'd already kind of like, you know, inhaled, push, and so I went to like catch my breath again, and they were like, you know, my mom and doctor were like, keep pushing Katie, and so I went to push again, and I felt both her shoulders come out, and then before I know it, like I kept pushing, they were telling me to keep pushing, and she came out in one push, and that was the weirdest, craziest, most like overwhelming feeling ever. Like, I don't know, when you have a baby, it's super overwhelming. The feelings you get when the baby comes out, it's like a big rush of all this emotion, at least for me. With my 3 other babies, it's a lot of intense emotion. But with Sophia, I'd never pushed a baby out in one push. And so when she came out, I just remember like gasping and just like all these feelings 10 times more intense. But yeah, all those feelings came over, so I was like trying to kind of breathe through all of the rush of feelings and whatnot now that the baby was out, as they put her on my chest, and just kind of trying to process the fact that she came out that quickly. Like, it was fast. My mom was able to catch her though. She came out so fast that I think there were like my sister-in-law, one of my sisters had my phone, and then also another one of my sisters had this camera, and they were all taking pictures, and she came out so fast that nobody got a picture of her the baby actually coming out. There's pictures of before, when the baby's head is like crowning and like, you know, about to come out, and then literally the next picture they're able to take is her out. Like, she's that fast. I don't have a picture of her like partway out type of thing. It was intense, and like I said, it was a lot of really intense emotion. Like, I just felt really overwhelmed for a little while, because I think I kind of chalk it up to her coming so fast. I just remember breathing and gasping and just like not being able to process it. And she came out, they placed her on me, and she was really quiet. Like, she didn't, you know, usually babies cry or kind of move around and whatnot, and she came out and went on my chest and just like laid there. And I was kind of having all these emotions, so I was kind of out of it when she was first laid there. And I remember my mom going like, okay, you know, Katie, talk to her, like, you know, rub her. And then the nurses came and they were rubbing her, and she was just laying there, and I got really nervous. And I don't want to like scare you, she's fine. The nurses weren't like super concerned. I was the one, I think, freaking out more so than anyone else. And even my mom was a little nervous. She was just like, talk to her, Kay. Like, she's not, you know, she would just, not that she like wasn't breathing or wasn't doing anything. She was just very still. And so after a couple minutes of trying to like rub her and talk to her, she was still just kind of like laying there. We could see her eyes and whatnot. We could see her chest, like she's breathing. But after a couple moments, a nurse came up and she was like rubbing her, and she was like, you want me to take her over to the warmer? Maybe she just kind of, you know, needs a moment. And I was like, yes, please do, like, make sure my baby's okay. And we found out later that sometimes when, you know, babies can come out that fast and whatnot, I guess kind of like with me, where I had to take a minute because it was just so overwhelming, it could be the same for the baby. So they took her over to the warmer, and, you know, her coloring started looking good. That was another thing. She was very dark, like, you know, dark and purple looking. So they took her over there and, you know, started warming her up, making sure everything looked okay while the doctor checked me out. And I did tear. I think I tore a 1 degree or a 2 degree, honestly can't remember. But I did tear a little bit, which I was kind of super bummed about. But so while the baby was over at the whatever, nursery, or like little, not incubator, but the little warming station for the baby in the hospital room. So while she was over there, the doctor went ahead, stitched me up, and that was not fun. I didn't tear at all with my third child, Levi. And so it had been since Gideon I tore just a teeny tiny bit. It was like needed one stitch or something. But this one I needed like, I think 3 stitches to kind of get it all back together. And I had forgotten how bad that needle is when they numb you up. I mean, I'm sure the needle to sew you would be just as bad, but the needle that you feel when they go to numb you, oh, it hurts so much. I'm gonna go ahead and stick this green. Let's see how good this green is. I feel like these are the Odin's Eye Solmain gel liners. I have a first impressions coming out, but I don't think you guys have seen it yet. I don't know, maybe you have, but anyway, I've been testing them, and some of them are good and some of them I'm not the biggest fan of. Like this one, I feel like intensity wise, like pigment wise, it's pretty good. It's going on my waterline pretty good. I have watery eyeline, watery waterlines. Can I speak? But the color, like look at this bright color, and then inside it's like, I would call it a hunter green. Like it's really dark in comparison. So I've been trying to test them all, and some of them I really like, and some of them I don't, either because they don't want to transfer or they're a super different color to what they look like on the outside. Like this is so dark compared to this. However, this orange is one of my favorites because it actually shows up that intensely orange and it's that easy to put on. So a little weird. Anyway, let's get back on track. Where was I? Baby was born. I was a little concerned because she wasn't really moving much, or you know, looking like she, you know, she didn't cry at all, but she wasn't moving either. But they took her over, warmed her up. She was fine. She's just a really chill baby, and that's something that continues to be the case with her. Like we are always just shocked with how calm she is after the baby's born. And like, you know, when they stick the baby to like test their blood and whatnot, there were sometimes they would stick her and she wouldn't even like make a reaction. She'd just sleep. She'd still be sleeping. And like with my 3 previous babies, when you stick them in their heel, they give a good cry and whatnot. So maybe it was also, you know, her being born so fast, but I think also too it's just her temperament. She's a pretty chill baby. But anyway, we got sewed up. She came over, started nursing, and like I said, she was born at 11, so it was at a good time where we went in, or not, I didn't go anywhere. My husband went and picked up our other kids and brought them over to the hospital and let them all meet their sister. So yeah, what else do I have to share? That's pretty much how it went. Thankfully not too crazy different from my previous ones. With, you know, doing Pitocin and all that. I started around like 5:36, I think it was, and we had her at 11. Okay, this is my look. I just put, did I tell you? I could have pointed at it. I don't even remember, but I put this on my inner corner. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on my brow bone. That's fixed up enough. It looks a little extra cakey, but at least the blue is gone. So if you are considering this palette, or you have this palette and want to do your face first, I do not recommend it if you're using the blue, because that stained pretty darn good. Anyway, ooh, that's a pretty highlight. Wow, a little too intense. But it almost disappears when I'm looking straight on. A little bit of a cast, maybe a teeny bit of a white cast when I'm looking straight on. I think this is the look. I've just been playing around with it. Let me go ahead and step back a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and overlay right here some looks, close-ups of this look, but I really like how this look turned out. I was kind of talking my ear off, and so wasn't super paying attention, but I am very happy with the final outcome. Anyway, so that is gonna do it for me for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing another look with the Serenity palette from Cosmic Brushes. I really enjoy this palette. I definitely know I have my palette palooza featuring my full review and all the looks that I did with this palette. I put that up already, so if you are curious at all to see that review, you can check that video out. But obviously, as I have been talking about in this video, I really do like it. It was my #1 from the palette. It is fantastic. Love it so much. The colors are just fantastic. Anyway, that is gonna do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my labor and delivery story with Sophia. I always feel like whenever I sit down to do these videos, I leave stuff out. If you have any questions of like, wait, Katie, there's a hole in your story, like what happened here? Feel free to leave it down below in the comments and I'll fill it in. I feel like I'm not a very good storyteller, but I try my best in these videos just to share with you guys. But yeah, as I said, if I missed anything out or if you think there's anything missing, let me know that down below in the comments and I'll answer you down there. But yeah, that is gonna do for me. I don't have Sophia to like show you here, but I will link the video right here. If you want to go to that video and go to the end, she woke up while I was doing that video, and that's the first time I showed her on my channel. So that was her last week when she was 4 weeks old. You've already seen her, and I'm sure you'll continue to see her, because typically for me, when it comes to having a new baby and doing YouTube, there are days where they wake up, and so they either, you can hear them down here below me, or you'll be able to see them and whatnot. I remember with Levi and also Gideon, there'd be videos that I have on my channel. I'll go back and watch, be like, oh my goodness, look, that's baby Gideon or baby Levi. So I'm sure you'll see her in future videos. With that said, thank you guys so very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And as always, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm LadyKatie92 over there. And yeah, with all that said, I'll see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye guys.